Wife wants a divorce because I made her friend pregnant while we had threesome. Even though I used protection, this divorce is happening because her friend wants to keep the baby. I've got a story that'll have you shaking your head in disbelief. My name is Just, and up until a few weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty normal life. My wife Saskia and I have been married for 6 years. We're in our early 30s living in Amsterdam, and everything seemed fine. We're not your typical couple, though. We've always been open to exploring new things in the bedroom. I know, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it worked for us. One night, we decided to spice things up and invited Saskia's best friend, Annika, to join us. Annika is this gorgeous, bubbly woman who's been friends with Saskia since childhood. We'd all had a few drinks, the mood was light, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. Everything went smoothly, or so we thought. Fast forward a month, and Annika calls us with some shocking news. She's pregnant. You could have knocked me over with a feather. We used protection, for crying out loud. I felt my heart pounding in my chest as she told us. Saskia's face went pale. "How is that even possible?" Saskia asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know, Sask. Maybe the condom broke," Annika replied, tears streaming down her face. We all sat in stunned silence, trying to wrap our heads around it. But it was Annika's next words that really floored us. "I'm keeping the baby." After Annika dropped that bombshell, Saskia and I had the biggest fight of our lives. She couldn't understand why Annika would want to keep the baby, and honestly, neither could I. But Annika was adamant. She wanted to be a mother, and saw this as her only chance. "You've always known I wanted kids, Saskia. I'm 34. My biological clock is ticking," Annika cried. Saskia stormed out of the house, and I followed her, desperate to calm her down. We walked around our neighborhood, the cool Amsterdam air doing little to soothe the fiery argument we were having. "How could this happen, Just? We were careful. This wasn't supposed to ruin everything," Saskia yelled, her voice echoing in the empty streets. "I don't know, Sask. I don't fucking know, but we have to deal with it," I replied, feeling helpless. The next few days were a blur. Saskia couldn't look at me without bursting into tears or yelling. I tried to talk to her, to explain that we could get through this, but she wasn't having any of it. Meanwhile, Annika was trying to keep her distance, knowing she was at the center of the storm. Then, one night, Saskia dropped another bombshell. I want a divorce." Hearing those words from Saskia shattered me. I couldn't believe it had come to this. We had our problems, sure, but a divorce? It seemed unthinkable. But Saskia was dead serious. "I can't do this, Just. I can't look at you without seeing her and that baby. It's too much," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But Saskia, we can work through this. We've been through so much together. Please don't throw it all away," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Just. I just can't," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Saskia moved out, staying with her sister while we figured out the logistics of the divorce. I felt like I was living in a fog, going through the motions, but not really there. Friends and family tried to support us, but it was clear they were all taking sides. Some were on my side, understanding that it was an accident, a freak occurrence. Others sided with Saskia, saying I'd brought this on us by suggesting the threesome in the first place. Amidst all this chaos, Annika was going through her own struggles. She was determined to keep the baby, even if it meant losing Saskia's friendship. It was heartbreaking to see these two women, who had been inseparable for years, torn apart by this. One evening, Annika came over to talk. "I never wanted this to happen, Just. I never wanted to come between you and Saskia," she said, her voice filled with regret. "I know, Annika, but what's done is done. We have to find a way to move forward," I replied, trying to muster some semblance of optimism. The divorce process was grueling. Saskia and I had to sort through our lives, dividing everything we built together. It felt like we were dismantling our history piece by piece. Meanwhile, Annika's pregnancy was progressing, and the reality of the situation was becoming more and more undeniable. One day, I got a call from Saskia. She wanted to meet up and talk. I agreed, hoping that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to fix things. We met at our favorite cafe, the place where we'd had our first date. It was bittersweet being there, surrounded by memories. Just, I've been thinking a lot, Saskia began, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. This whole thing has been a nightmare, but I don't want us to hate each other. We were best friends before we were anything else. Can we at least try to be civil? Her words were like a lifeline. Of course, Saskia. I don't want us to end up hating each other either. This is hard enough as it is, I replied, feeling a glimmer of hope. We talked for hours, hashing out our feelings and trying to find some common ground. It was the first real conversation we'd had in weeks, and it felt like a step in the right direction. But things took another turn when Annika's pregnancy became more public. Word spread quickly in our tight-knit community, and soon everyone knew. The judgmental looks, the whispered gossip, it was like living in a fishbowl. Saskia bore the brunt of it, and I could see it was wearing her down. One night, she called me in tears. Just, I can't do this anymore. The whispers, the stares, it's too much. I'm leaving Amsterdam. I need a fresh start. My heart sank. Where will you go? Back to my parents in Friesland. I need some time to figure things out. Saskia's move to Friesland marked a new chapter for all of us. I was left to pick up the pieces of my life in Amsterdam while she sought solace with her family. Annika, now visibly pregnant, was facing her own challenges. Despite everything, she and I grew closer, bound by the strange twist of fate that had brought us here. One day, as we were sitting in a park, she turned to me. Just, I know this isn't how either of us envisioned our lives, but we have to make the best of it. For the baby. She was right. We had to focus on the future, not the past. We started making plans, preparing for the arrival of our child. It wasn't easy, and the specter of my failed marriage loomed over us, but we were determined to make it work. Months passed, and Saskia and I maintained a tentative friendship. She even came back to Amsterdam for the birth of Annika's baby, a beautiful little girl named Marit. Holding Marit in my arms for the first time, I felt a rush of emotions, love, fear, hope. This tiny human represented a new beginning, a chance to start fresh.